From playing the ultimate and best types of video games, the next situation Akira finds himself is one where he has to fight for his survival. After being ruthlessly killed by Mion, Akira is revived to find himself in a room filled with others like him. The guys in the room are not only revealed to be dead, Mion informs them that their names have been removed from the registry. Only advantage they have is that they've been given a chance at life again, but with a twist. Their humanity has been compromised, therefore, they are now participants in the special ability testing project anchored by Mion. Each of them now has artificially induced powers that activates only when the cuffs show a green light. A wise man once said it's always good to have buyback clauses on properties owned. When Akira's ability being whatever the other person thinks, he decides to have one person he can trust despite trust being an odd task for him. After successfully winning the second group program, he leaves an I own you mark on Yuri by using his handkerchief to wrap her bruised hand. A buyback clause. In the next program, the once created team is separated and each of them takes different routes. Our boy might have learned nothing about teamwork during the last program, but what's more exciting than a gamer boy being featured in a survival game? This time around, Akira stumbles into a dark room alone. All he finds in there are cameras, a smartphone, and a speaker which Mion uses to communicate the next task. The third program's criteria for success are left for Akira to gather 100 points. It's that simple. But for Akira's sake, let's hope it's easy to execute. First off, his cuffs are released with a green light, meaning he can make use of his powers now. Secondly, a door opens to Block A, which is a scenery any desperate candidate would consider as the outside world. Obviously, it's a simulation of the outdoors, and Akira is meant to gather 1,000 points from each participant he will beat in Block A, like how babies instinctively grab onto milk factories to feed. Akira's first instinct is to run. From the destructive look at Block A, it turns out Akira and his ex-teammates are late participants in the party. The arena unveils devastating after-fight effects. It's like a messy jungle where the winner gets $1 million. I bet Mion has no intentions of doing that. All candidates in the ability testing project have been labeled dead in their world. What could a dead person possibly purchase? A luxurious gravestone? Must be a dead joke. Back to the story, every new participant thrown in Block A has to deal with an ambush from others who survived, and our boy Akira is not excluded. Halting him from his getaway is Katsuya, who approaches him in the form of an ambush. Might have judged him too soon because just when Akira plans to take action, Katsuya surrenders instantly and invites Akira as a recruit. He must have sensed greatness on Akira's arrival, but then again, their mini conversation is interrupted. With that, here comes the arrival of Akira's most prized possession in the program, who is none other than Yuri. Apparently, Yuri has gotten herself into a situation where she's being chased by 4 dangling sausages. Katsuya identifies them as the Red Quartet of Fools, in other words, the Red Dragon team. No slander or shade to them, but they do look like fools and hoodlums. Soon, it is revealed that a squabble exists between Katsuya's team and the Red Fools. Both groups have their eyes on 2 prizes, Akira and Yuri. Yuri's reason for avoiding them becomes even clearer. They're obviously perverts, and we all know what Yuri does to perverts. When Katsuya refuses to hand Akira and Yuri to them, the fools decide to take extreme measures to get their recruits. Measures they were going to regret. In response, Katsuya unveils his ability to turn a stick into a bow. The squabble is about to become a full-blown fight, and the Red Dragons are ready for it. Guy in glasses, Matsushita, also unveils his ability. Once again, we get another participant who wields Mion's hand cannon ability. Thinking they've got the upper hand, Matsushita giggles, ready to shoot at his opponent. Just then, Yuri, who is convinced that the hand cannon is Akira's ability, announces that Akira possesses the same as Matsushita's. Remember, Akira's real ability is to create whatever the other person thinks or believes. Thankfully, Yuri's big mouth gives him the advantage to do just that. The red minions are so stunned at Yuri's words that the cannon materializes on Akira's hands. To make matters worse for the Reds, Akira is more skilled in the use of the cannon, which buys his side the opportunity to escape. This realization makes Puss shiver in his boots. Matsushita chickens out of the chase, as well as the rest of the group. They've probably never experienced greatness, yet their biggest fear remains how they'll explain to the boss that they let the cat jump the rope. Meanwhile, Katsuya, who gets proper introductions from the duo, as well as an appreciation for saving their asses, along with comes the tea of the third program from Katsuya, explains that despite his phase being a solo match, some guys form teams to get the upper hand. This brings them down to the red and green faction. While Katsuya belongs to the green faction, the Hoodlums earlier belonged to the red faction, which is run by two goons with crazy rare abilities and sharp minds. Seeing that Katsuya is somewhat noble, Akira requests to see the leader of the green faction. As green is interpreted to be unity, growth, or whatever green means, the faction's camp seems to be promising and large. In there, Akira and Yuri get to meet Haruka and baby Taro, who comes off as a huge surprise. That is until Katsuya reveals that Taro was born in the program by his mother, who was pregnant before arriving. She must have enjoyed some party sausages in her life. But given her situation, one can also wonder what her ability is. Must be to push babies. Akira and Yuri get the chance to be alone while waiting for Green's faction leader. Yet Yuri can't help but rant, which is a naturally born superpower for every girl. She calls Akira out on his carefree attitude since their reunion, especially after an emotional goodbye from them. Sis hasn't grasped she's the collateral damage. However, Akira calms her down by saying he would have found her for himself if they hadn't run into each other. Of course, find her to get his handkerchief back. According to Akira's theory, the green faction might be just what they need, having to recruit and create a huge hideout for the weak. He suspects the faction possesses multiple people with the best abilities, as well as a calculative team leader. They soon get to meet him, revealed to be Old Man Shirasagi. After hearing about the recruit's abilities, Shirasagi is shocked to his old bones that top-notch abilities like that could be part of their faction. This easily cancels Akira's theory of superlative abilities in the green faction. Matter of fact, the green faction was on the verge of getting wiped out by the Reds. The Reds seem to have the opinion that the fourth program might be worse than his. Therefore, they've created a system in which the bosses, Ugami and Kuroiwa, can rule their program as the kings. To sum it up, they gather points, exchange them for survival supplies, exploit those with weak abilities, and use them as slaves. What's even more shocking is that Rin has somehow climbed her way to the top ranks and is right by Ugami's side. A side chick. That's all she could ever be good for, I guess. Reaching the Reds' HQ is news about the newcomers to Block A, Akira in particular. They know nothing about him. Yet the fact that the quartet couldn't capture a newbie remains, and Kuroa labels him a potential threat if he teams up with a formidable teammate. Among Red and Green's dispute exists another faction, which is Faction Blue. These guys have nothing to do with the tussle of power or justice for the weak like Red and Green. Individuals in Faction Blue have different aspirations, and they remain neutral in the conflict. Therefore, the third program is divided into three factions with different goals. Shirasagi invites Akira and Yuri to fight alongside the Green. Knowing Yuri has always had a victim complex, she immediately accepts the offer. However, gamer boy Akira involves his manipulative skills again. Ladies, that's why these gamer boys always break your hearts. They're manipulative to the core. What's gonna happen if Akira refuses to join the green faction? It's not like they can stop him, but then again, curiosity kills the cat every time. A twist of events has Akira aiming his hand at Shirasagi. Another twist of event is that the cannon doesn't materialize. What could be wrong? Confusion swirls Akira as he tries to figure it out. Did Shirasagi not believe Akira had the cannon ability? Or does Shirasagi possess the ability to block someone from using their ability? It becomes even clearer when Akira shoots Shirasagi right on the spot to confirm his doubts. Turns out the old man possesses a shield ability that can block even a cannon. Also, the little act earlier was to check if Faction Green's leader had something up his sleeves, and possibly to make sure Shirasagi wasn't blindly sending them to their doom. Now that Akira's thoughts have been fulfilled, here comes the hardest part, getting Yuri on his side. In order to do this, Akira takes advantage to use the lack of space in the camp, so he opts to share a room with Yuri privately, just to prove his point. You wouldn't guess what plans Miss Teenage Virgin cooked up in her head. Speaking about Yuri, of course. She thinks it's the night where she gets some load off her chest, and some for Akira's mouth. What's even shocking is she easily obeys Akira's words to sit on the bed. Who knew Yuri could be this submissive? Akira, our boy, has successfully tamed a wild beast. Sis must definitely want this. To top it all off, she finds protective rubber for divers on the bed and assumes this might just be the day it happens. Later on, Akira is about to make a move, but all that swirls in Yuri's head are bad things, very bad things. She suspects Akira is about to confess his feelings, but all he does is pass her a letter he just wrote. Here comes the most important note of Yuri's life. But when she opens it, she finds something else written on it instead of feelings. Yuri's facial expression is like, ugh. The lines were obviously not connecting. Sister Yuri soon figures out that this shit ain't about romance. Get that romance shit off the road. When Yuri comes back to her senses, Akira makes her focus and believe they can be connected through their minds. Yuri does this and boom, the connection is established. He successfully manages to make Yuri believe his ability is telepathy without revealing the truth of it. Yet he explains the whole setup is just so they can communicate without words because they're being watched. After all, Shirasagi just led a duo with extraordinary abilities into Faction Green's camp. Over the night, the two give proper introductions about each other and their goals in the ability testing project. Where Yuri wishes to return home to a little girl Rira, Akira just wants to finish the video game he left on and also beat Mion at her game. He's not settling to become Mion's puppet. When both of them conclude with a handshake, Akira finally lets the cat out of the bag. Yes, folks, he reveals his true ability. Imagine putting your trust in a woman. Akira was practically putting his life in her hands. What happened to the Brotherhood, Akira? To be fair, no one in this program could be trusted. Plus, Yuri is collateral damage and also his most prized possession. After Akira's truth, Yuri is shocked at his revelation but has no time to process it. Instantly, every interface rings with a quest from Mion. Turns out there's about to be a big quest the next day. As each faction prepares itself for the task at ahead, everyone is prepared to face the reality that danger lurks around the corner. Nevertheless, there's also a possibility to gather points during the quest. So the quest seems pretty easy. Each participant is to kill Mion's summoned mummies, just like the first one Akira had encountered within part 1 of this recap. Today's motivation is to whip some mummy ass or get yours cooked. They either killed or get killed, and every kill awards them 30 points easily. Over time, Akira has gotten undeniably good with his ability. While keeping telepathic abilities with Yuri, the other person that makes his canon ability materialize are Faction Green's sub-team leaders, who are keeping an eye on the boy with the canon ability. In other words, the other person is anyone who is engaged with Akira. This gives him the upper hand in the fight, but then again, something they don't expect happens. Faction leaders Ugami and Kiriwa suddenly show up like they were invited to the party. Actually, they were. And it seems Mion is in whatever scheme they're cooking. Since the Reds have held a resistance against leaving the third program, their arrival raises some worry. Now that Ugami and Kiriwa are obviously up to no good, Shirasagi and his gang must retreat so the enemy team doesn't get a scoop of their abilities. Just when Faction Green thought they could abandon the task, Ugami played a dirty trick. He pulls Shirasagi's weakness against him by using the slaves he captured. Knowing Shirasagi will do anything to save the weak, Kiriwa unleashes a devastating ability to control the body against his will. It's almost like a puppeteer and his puppets. What he does next, though, is to control the defenseless slaves into the fight, aka he automatically makes them mummy food. Meanwhile, Mion just stands there to watch Kiriwa ruthlessly force people to their deaths. To make matters worse, she invites an even bigger threat to the battlefield, creating serious problems for Shirasagi, who is determined to save the slaves. With no choice left, Shirasagi steps into the gap. Not only that, he reveals his ability to create peaceful relations with whoever engages him. In other words, it not only blocks him from attacks, but it also bursts a huge hole through the massive mummy. The threat falls down, but unfortunately, the effect of the ability tears Shirasagi's arm. Not gonna lie, Kiriwa is impressed by the old man, who would have guessed he'd had such a trick up his old sleeve. It also seems like it's the end. However, Mion reveals her monster is not down yet. Every gamer should know that the final boss isn't defeated in just one level. Now that the situation requires intervention, Yuri and Akira step up to defend the monster by themselves. Their attacks don't seem to faze the monster, so Akira comes up with a plan that he only communicates to Yuri through telepathy. To make their plan work, both of them lure their monster into a hidden corner. This serves as a shield from Kiriwa and Ugami's eyes, and all they can do is wonder because the next thing that happens, Akira has his cannon in the monster's mouth, damaging it severely. When the monster springs back up, Ugami arrives to kill it finally. It seems the duo of Akira and Yuri has sparked its interest. The big gun now wants a front seat at the party. Yuri, who isn't having his charisma, uses the ability to quintuple their movement to attack him. Unfortunately, she doesn't register that Ugami is not her match. He tosses homegirl aside like she's some dirt. He also leaves an open challenge to the kids if they were ready to lose their lives by fighting him. Only then does Mion intervene. She reveals that it's against the rules for participants to fight each other. But seeing how eager both teams are to fight the other, Mion introduces a new quest, or rather a war game. The task is to hunt and capture the team leader from the other side's team. To win the game, they'll have to capture the team leader's interface and connect to it. It seems like an interesting match, but that's not all. The game is in 7 days. Hunting opponents will award some points, capturing the team's leaders in the end of the game. The worst of them all is the resolution to the game, which means the total elimination of the losing team. In other words, death. During the 7-day interval given for Operation Hunt the King quest, the following happens. Details about the quest are announced to the entire camp in the 3rd program. Shirasagi wishes to know Akira's real ability, but Akira reveals that his ability can't be made public yet. Kumagari and Kirisaki have joined the Blue faction. Tatara, a girl from the opposite team during the 2nd program, was one of the slaves rescued from Kuroa's wicked ability. Since then, she has resided in the Green faction's camp, and then one day she gives Akira a surprise visit. Turns out she's been a big fan of Kira's gaming profile way before they arrived in the program. Not only that, her ability to copy 1/3 of another ability gives her details about the copied ability. In other words, Tatara is one person who knows Akira's secret. Therefore, her knowledge is a threat to the efficiency of Akira's ability. Thankfully, Tatara wants to remain at her idol's side. She might just be useful since she's been a captive of the Red faction and knows all their abilities. Also, jealousy crawls Yuri's body like 10,000 scorpions after she sees Akira and Tatara together. Back at the Red faction's base, Rin, Renka, Kamui, and Rindo and Yuki are summoned to prepare for the upcoming game quest against Green. Meanwhile, there's a shocking revelation. Turns out there's a Red spy living among the Green faction. This spy not only helped the captured Red Goon escape, the individual happens to have intel about Akira's ability after witnessing his fight against Mion's monster at the quest. Now Kuroa and Ugami are well aware that Akira's hand cannon is a scam. Back at the Greens, Akira pulls Yuri out of the camp for a secret mission. You would not believe that Yuri thinks this mission is to feel the softness and warmth of her bouncing castles. Her mind is just nasty at this point. Soon Akira reveals that his reason for bringing her outdoors is so they can test his ability. This time around, Akira plans to use Yuri's ability to quintuple strength. Yet our boy soon finds out that you can take the dog out of the fight, but you can't take the fight out of the dog. His body breaks down at the slightest use of Yuri's ability, labeling it unfit for him. While scouting for a more compatible ability, Akira urges Yuri to imagine him transforming into anyone. This might seem impossible for Yuri, but it does work. Akira transforms into Tatara's look-alike, and then again, this raises questions and worry. Why did she think about Tatara of all people? Akira easily discerns that she must have witnessed his conversation with Tatara. Just so this doesn't raise distrust among them, Akira reveals details of his conversation with her. They discuss everything except Tatara's ability, which must be kept as a secret from Yuri. In a way, this balances things from every single angle. However, it's not over just yet. Akira and Yuri meet up with guys from Team Blue, Kirisaki, and their not-so-leader, Omoto. As Shirasagi said, these guys in Team Blue have nothing to lose, nothing to fight for, and therefore they have all the free time in the world. Akira's main goal is to ally with them. Not exactly an alliance per se, but they could really do with some of Blue's abilities as resistance against the Reds. In exchange for their alliance, Akira is willing to give about 200 to 500 points. Omoto easily discerns this as a tempting offer because the Blue faction was incredibly low on funds. However, the boy refuses. He seems to have set his eyes on a much more exhilarating price, which is revealed to be Yuri. No, he doesn't like Yuri for her personality. Omoto ain't no personality boy. All he has his eyes on are Yuri's juicy, scrumptious, and warm milk factories. Matter of fact, he wants her in exchange for helping the Green faction. Akira immediately raises a query about this, saying he can never let Yuri out of his sight. He also describes her as a very important piece in his life, the best collateral. Yet with Akira's words, Omoto's chance to interfering becomes slimmer. Now Faction Green is left to their fate as they prepare for the quest of their lives, which might be the last quest. Hunt the King event day finally arrives, and you could count on Mion to introduce rules at the last minute. They are to complete the quest by stealing enemy interfaces as well as the team leaders. Each stolen interface awards the thief with 1 Mion point. Captured interfaces will be considered dead and can't be used if it gets 3 meters away from the owner. When the interface is stolen and dies, their cuffs activate and they lose their abilities during the hunting game. Additionally, bonus Mion points will be provided in special interface towers, which they can use to trade for special abilities during the hunt. Mion declares the hunt open and everyone divides into their different stations. According to Shirasagi's plan, they're to secure 3 out of 5 interface towers to accumulate enough Mion points to seal Ugami's ability. Everyone gets their stations immediately. However, what they don't expect is for Ugami to charge into the hunt, ready for an ambush. Remember that baby from the Green Camp? His mother is revealed to be the badass Asuka. It's quite unfortunate that she remains outmatched when faced with Ugami. The arrival of Ugami rains so much terror on the Greens that they begin to scatter their formation. Soon, members of the Green faction are faced head-to-head against formidable opponents like Kamui, Ranka, Rindo, Yuki, and Rin. That brings us to the end of this anime, and I'm sure it was a good one for you. See you folks next time, same channel.